James here from GoodGuitarist.com, and in today's lesson I want to show you how to play I Saw Her Standing There by the Beatles. And in this lesson we're going to learn how to do it using bar chords. I have another lesson for this song where we do it using open chord shapes, and it's a lot easier. And you might ask, well, what's the point in using bar chords if you can just play it in an easier way? And the thing is, when you use bar chords, the way that you can accent everything and like put the rhythm together, it really changes it up. You know, you can shorten chords really easily just by releasing the pressure. So I can play them long or short. You know, my rhythm arm isn't changing at all. I'm controlling all of that with the chord shape. You know, so there's just a bunch of things like that. And you know, when you watch videos of the Beatles playing, they are using those bar chord shapes for those very reasons. And if you find that you want to do this, but it feels just maybe a little bit out of your level, I have a course designed to kind of bridge the gap between the beginner chord shapes, you know, just strumming and playing regular chords, and being able to play bar chords all over the whole fretboard, and, you know, something that would make sense of this. You know, I have a way to kind of bridge the gap between that. So if you need help, I recommend checking that out. There's a free trial. It's called Bar Chords Made Easy. I'll put a link to that down below. Otherwise, this one isn't too bad. You know, I'd say this is like a intermediate, almost intermediate level song. It's just on that borderline because it uses bar chords. We're going to start off with our chord shapes. Our very first chord is called E7. And there's a really easy way to make this chord shape. If you already know the C chord, you know, just the plain old C chord, you take that and then you add your pinky finger to the G string at the 3rd fret. So it kind of just fills in the hole. Normally the G string's open. We're filling it in. And then you take that whole shape and you drag it up until your ring finger or your 3rd finger is on the 7th fret. So we're on the 5th, 6th, and 7th frets. And in this case, we can actually leave the low string open because that's also E. You know, this is an E chord. So yeah, just take your C chord, fill in the gap, drag it up. That's our first shape. And then from there, we go to an A7 chord. So I just pivoted off of that finger into the A7 bar chord. And if you're just starting bar chords or you haven't even started bar chords yet, I want to show you a little trick. Instead of playing our E chord like this, let's play it over here using these 3 fingers. So we're going to save our first finger and just use these 3 fingers. Middle finger on the 1st fret, 2nd fret, 2nd fret. It's the same notes. It's a regular E chord, except with those 3 fingers instead. And we're going to drag the shape up till we're on the 6th and 7th frets, and our first finger can go on the 5th fret. So if you're just getting into bar chords, you could do E over here and then go up to A. And if you remove your pinky from the equation and you just go like this, you get E7 and A7. Then our next chord is B7, and that just requires us to go up 2 frets from the A. And you might have noticed in the intro there, I added my pinky right here so that it's 4 frets higher than where my first finger is, or 3 frets higher. So here's my first finger, then we go 1, 2, 3 on the B string. That just makes it a bit more tense, adds more of that bluesy tension that we all love. And then we can go 1 more fret higher for C7. And that's it, that's all the chords in this song. So you could play it just like that, just going E7, A7, B7, C7, just dragging around one shape the whole time. Or you could do this for E7, which is the way that I would like to play it, and then we switch into A7. And remember to pivot off your ring finger when you're doing that. So to get some practice with these shapes, let's work on playing the whole chord progression in order. Starting off on E7. So you can do this one, or we can do it here, like that. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 17. downstrokes only, really simple, going up to that B. And how could I dance with another? Yeah, and I saw her standing there. Then the next part, we go to the A chord. My heart went boom when she crossed the room, and I held her hand in mine. Oh. And then we would just go back to the first part from there. So that's the chord order, and I recommend just going through it nice and slow, taking your time working on the switches. You know, if you're doing it this way, it's actually a lot easier. You're just kind of dragging it up and down. But if you want to get it this way, remember to pivot off of that ring finger into your bar chord shapes. And now we can add the rhythm. And this is where it's going to be a lot different than the other version of this lesson that I made. You know, I made the beginner one where we're using open chords. We can't control the rhythm as much, but here we're in full control because we're using bar chords. The basic pattern goes like this. I'll do it really slowly. 3 and 4 and. And what we're doing there is we're kind of separating it into low movements that just get the low strings, and then ones that get chord shots, and then we're playing some short ones and long ones. Let's break it down. Starting off with just a couple low hits, just 1 and on that one we're just hitting the lowest notes of the chord. So if we're on the A chord, on the B chord, and then we do a full strum, but we release the pressure pretty quick. You know, we don't want to hold it. And all I'm doing there is I'm just letting off the pressure, but I'm not lifting my fingers off. I'm just releasing the pressure. So root, root, short hit, or a chord shot. Root, root, shot. Root, root, shot. Then we go root, root, up. And that's also a short one. Root, root, up. Root, root, up. Remember to release that pressure to make it short. And then finally, we just have a long upstroke. So that last bit, root, root, up, up. Root, root, short, long. Root, root, short, long. When you put it all together, when you count it out, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, you know, so if you're having trouble with it, I recommend counting it super slowly, just like that, and lining up the strokes with the counting. It might take a while, but if you just get as much of it as you can, you know, starting off with just root, root, short, and then moving on to root, root, short, root, root. You know, just doing that a whole bunch of times. Root, root, short, root, root, up. Trying that. Root, root, short, root, root, up. Finally get that last one in there. Once you can do it once, work on doing it a few times in a row. And one last thing before we put this whole thing together is on that very last upstroke, that long upstroke, we can actually dip into the next chord early. So we actually switch our chord on that upstroke, and that helps push some of them forward and give the song a bit of a more driving feel. You know, so say, for instance, at the beginning of the tune, just 17. See there, I went to the A chord, upstroke a little bit early. And you can do that. That's called pushing. You know, you're pushing into the next chord change a little bit early. And you can do that for a lot of the switches. You'll see me do this when we play through it. I recommend just trying that between the E and A chord, even like this, like. But you don't have to. You could just play the strumming pattern on each chord like you normally would. This is just a way to make the song have a bit more excitement and sound more like the original recording. And at this point, all you gotta do is take that strumming pattern, put it together with the chord progression that we already practiced. You know, we already have it in the right order. This hand's already doing its job. We just gotta put it together and it should be no problem. So let's try that super duper slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, so that's how you play I Saw Her Standing There using bar chords so that we can get the rhythm really, really tight and make it sound a lot more like the original recording. If you're having trouble with bar chords, don't forget about my course, Bar Chords Made Easy. Have a fun time practicing and I'll see you soon.